Most men, they think that they have a fat loss problem, but in reality, they actually don't. They just have a gut health problem. And until they actually fix that, nothing else actually works. And I know this myself, guys, because I spent literally 3 years trying to fix this. So let's get into the video. So I was in my early 20s. I was training hard. I was eating clean by every standard anyone had given me, really. And I looked okay, but I felt pretty damn awful inside, to be honest with you. So I had this bloating every single day. I think that was probably the worst part about it. I'm going to put a picture here. But it was not just that, it was the energy crashes that I used to get. And on top of that, because of those two together, I just had zero drive. Like, it was a pretty miserable existence, to be honest with you. It was this digestion that was a complete mess, really. And it didn't really matter what I actually ate. As I mentioned in the previous one, the doctors, they said it was IBS. They gave me some bullshit leaflet and essentially just sent me home. But what they completely missed was that everything I was really experiencing, that, you know, the body composition, the fatigue, the hormonal flatness, all of this stuff, it was all coming from exactly the same place. And that was my gut. Nobody really explains this properly, but your gut lining is made of collagen, right? This one cell thick collagen. And when it degrades from stress, things like seed oils, processed food, things start leaking through that shouldn't. So when I say things that are leaking through, this is like toxins, undigested food, bacteria. And essentially your immune system, it sees that and then it panics. And then it activates, and then it stays activated. When you're in this constant state of an activated immune system, means constantly elevated cortisol. I mentioned this in a reel yesterday, is the enemy of the physique. So it's not necessarily your macros, you know, things like your fats, your carbs. It's actually cortisol. And when this cortisol is chronically elevated, your body breaks down muscle tissue to produce glucose. When cortisol is chronically elevated, your body breaks down muscle tissue to produce glucose. When cortisol is chronically elevated, your body breaks down muscle tissue to produce glucose. It stores fat around that midsection. And then on top of that as well, it suppresses testosterone. When cortisol is chronically elevated, your body breaks down muscle tissue to produce glucose, right? It then stores fat around the midsection. It suppresses things like testosterone. It tanks your thyroid. So if you look at it like this, right, imagine you're training hard, you're eating right, you know, healthy foods, whatever, and your own stress hormones are working directly against you. And that is basically what's happening. And this is the bit that really got me, right? Your liver produces around 60 to 70% of your active thyroid hormone. So it needs adequate carbohydrate and insulin signaling to do this conversion properly. No functioning gut, no proper nutrient absorption, and no thyroid conversion, right? And then unfortunately that means your metabolism tanks, you start feeling really cold all the time, and you know, you think maybe you actually just need more discipline, but you actually don't. Your gut is obviously broken, and your whole hormonal system inside is paying for it. So what actually fixed this for me? Everyone's like looking for these supplements, and yes, they have their places, but really this for me just came back to three very basic things. So as you can see here on screen, number one, this is very obvious, just removing what caused the damage. So we're getting rid of the bullshit seed oils, get rid of those completely. That counts like vegetable oil, sunflower, canola, and essentially these oxidize in your body. They drive inflammation and they end up degrading the gut lining. So they're in almost everything you look at. You just need to go into any supermarket, read the back of the labels, and if it has seed oils in it, then just put it back. This is very simple. Then moving on to number two. Now you need to feed the gut lining directly. That's why I'm always big on bone broth. You see that every day in my stories. Things like grass-fed meats, collagen, gelatin. These aren't supplements. They are the raw materials your gut lining is actually made from. So within just a couple of weeks of doing this daily, the bloating started to go down. So try this if you haven't already. And then moving on to number 3. This is fairly obvious by now, but just eating like your great grandfather. So grass-fed beef, eggs, potatoes, fruit, honey, raw dairy, raw butter, just food that your liver actually recognizes. Until you fix the gut, everything else really is just damage control. The bacterial toxins that leak through a damaged gut, that can completely tank your testosterone. And this is why some guys that are already on TRT still feel pretty bloody awful. And this is why you can train hard, as I said at the beginning, you can eat clean and you still look kind of soft, right? And as I always say to people, the gut is still the missing piece. And that was definitely the case for me for 3 years. So the good news with all of this is that it's completely fixable. So this is how we're going to do it. So here's the actual sequence and what's happening in your body when your gut is broken. So we've got 6 mechanisms here. I'm just going to put me up there so you can actually see it on the screen. So number 1, your gut inflammation crashes LH. This is the signal that tells your testes to make more testosterone. So your total T looks absolutely fine. But on paper, you feel awful because the signal was never sent. And then number 2, the endotoxins from your leaky gut enter your cells and damage the mitochondria. And that's why you're exhausted, even when your blood work looks absolutely fine. And then moving on to number 3, leaky gut triggers this constant cortisol. I mentioned this just now. And cortisol is your testosterone's worst enemy, believe me. And those two, they cannot coexist. Number 4, inflammation destroys insulin sensitivity, SHBG rises, free testosterone tanks, and your belly fat locks in. Number 5, your gut stops clearing excess estrogen. It just keeps recirculating, and estrogen becomes the dominant hormone. And that is the last thing that we want as men, believe me. Number 6, your gut wall is damaged, so nothing really absorbs. Zinc, magnesium, vitamin D, these are the raw materials for testosterone production. And yeah, this is really going to help. So here's a quick one that's probably going to contradict everything that you've probably been told. You don't actually need 40 grams of fiber a day, right? That whole concept is completely wrong. This is old news. More fiber from the wrong sources, things like oats, beans, lentils, flax, they all increase endotoxin in the gut, right? And then that slows digestion, it spikes inflammation, and it strips minerals. I remember when I got diagnosed, quote unquote, with IBS, and I actually turned vegan because I thought that was going to be the only answer. And that was probably the worst 2 weeks of my life. I was throwing in loads of oats, lentils, which just exacerbated everything, and like it was really, really bad. So yeah, if you're experiencing any of these things, definitely don't be a vegan. Fruit really is the only fiber source worth eating. That comes with polyphenols, antioxidants that actually protect the gut barrier rather than damaging it. So fruit's absolutely fine. And then all my clients are on this, and I always talk about this in my content, but the raw carrot is actually one of the most underrated gut tools out there. The specific type of fiber in the raw carrots binds to excess estrogen in the gut, and then it carries it out of the body. You can do this best on like an empty stomach. It combines really well with apple cider vinegar. You just do that daily. It's just like brushing your teeth. It just becomes part of your routine. So if you take anything away from this today, raw carrot salad. But if your gut is functioning properly, you do not need to track your fiber. Just eat real food and your body will literally sort the rest. Within 90 days, my digestion was, my entire life, bro, was unrecognizable. But really, the thing that surprised me the most about all of this, my body composition literally changed without even trying to change it. Because I always said, I was speaking to a guy yesterday on the call about this. When you have this functioning gut, this dialed inflammation, right, and stable cortisol, this man health, you're going to be naturally lean, right? Your body is just running properly. So really the fat loss isn't necessarily the goal. This is just a byproduct of getting yourself healthy on the inside. I see guys just trying to treat the symptoms, right? They're cutting calories, they're adding cardio, excuse me, they're buying fat burners, and they're wondering why nothing actually sticks. The body doesn't hold on to fat because you're not trying hard enough. It holds on to fat because you're under this chronic internal stress, and it's basically just trying to protect itself. So the main thing you need to do is fix the source of the stress, and then the fat comes off on its own, right? I always say this, it's not necessarily a discipline problem. You just have these underlying gut issues. And like I said just now, this is completely fixable. You can do this without the prescriptions. You don't need to go on these crazy ass restrictive diets, and you do definitely not need to run yourself into the ground. You need to be eating real food and have this functioning gut and a body that's actually working with you instead of against you. Drop me a DM on Instagram with the word gut, and I will send you the food list, the bone broth protocol, everything that you need to start today. Or if you want to get onto the Sons of Achilles, the link is in the description. It's free. You can come find us as a group of guys all building their best physiques. We're all, collectively bigging each other up, and it's a great positive environment. But nevertheless, if this landed, just share it with someone who actually needs it. It might really actually change someone's life. A lot of guys are getting the wrong advice from people who haven't actually been through it themselves. And obviously I've come from 3 years of going through this shit. Take care, brothers. Thank you for watching.